that. So let's bow our heads. Father God, we thank you for today. As always, God, we thank you for life. We thank you for waking us up this morning, God, and leading us on our way. God, I thank you for watching over each and every one of our families. God, we just ask that you watch over Jackie Leonard as she's going through this difficult time right now. God, we ask that you just bless any of the Century 21 family members that may be sick or shut in. God, we just ask that this information goes forth in a powerful way and that we continue to do your will. In Jesus' name, amen. All righty. So, Jim, Joe, tell us what's been going on in the lending institution.
Rates are staying, they're holding pretty steady from where they were. Government rates, VA loans, you're looking at about 2.25 with a small lender credit. You are seeing a lot of variations, especially with those that are what you call direct lenders or wholesale lenders. So if you're dealing with a call center, you're going to see those rates increase substantially. I've seen USA and Navy Fed as high as over 3% on a VA purchase, and they're doing that because of volume. They've got more business coming in than they can handle, so they raise their rates to slow the flow of business. So just be cautious out there. We don't do that here at Loan Depot. We put in overtime and a ton of it. So, I'll tell you, all my ops folks, they're authorized unlimited overtime. So they're working from home. Processors, underwriters, there is no limit. If they want to work, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're going to pay them for 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if they work weekends, we pay them double time. So there's a large incentive there for our underwriters and processor staff to work weekends. So they're getting a lot done. They're moving loans. So other than that, we've seen over the last week, refinance applications are up over 106%, with rates dropping to another historic low. The news wire goes out on Tuesday morning and the phones just light up 24/7, people looking to refinance. The purchase market is still strong, very strong. Only thing we're seeing is a slight slowdown, mainly due to inventory. And people getting frustrated with the multiple offer situations. I've had several clients that have been in and out of a dozen or more multiple offer situations, and they're just getting frustrated. They're getting tired. They don't want to look anymore because they're tired of losing deals. So I know it can be frustrating. Do your best to try to keep them on board. I'll tell you, if you're making an offer on a home, you probably want to just start with the highest and best. And go from there, because it's an extremely competitive market. It is hard right now to get into a home. 2021 outlooks, still looking at a very strong purchase market for 2021. Do expect, as we get into the spring, summer, rates to be on the rise. I would be very cautious and very observant that they might rise faster than they fell. So keep a close eye on that. If you got buyers that are on the fence, I would highly encourage no one to wait. Prices are going to remain high through 2021, and interest rates are going to climb, and they're going to climb very quickly. So I wouldn't be surprised from week to week we see a 1 percentage point jump or more in rate, and that can significantly impact their ability to qualify and that monthly payment. So are starting to see some builder confidence slip because house pricing is getting so high. So just keep an eye on that right now. Builder confidence is starting to slip from the record highs. Still very strong builder market. All in all, the market's still strong. It's still plugging away. We're starting to see forbearance numbers continuously drop. So it looks like we're going to pull through this. Only thing to be on the lookout right now is the Fed is actively meeting. So they'll put out their next market or economic analysis. Just kind of watching for, what I'm watching for is what they say about their the government continuing to purchase bonds. In fact, let me look here what came out this morning. Yeah, so as long as the Fed continues buying at the current rate or even picks up that rate, expect the rates to remain relatively low. If they pull back, which may happen due to the GDP numbers this morning, you expect them to come back up a little bit. But if we come up from 2.25 to 2.5, it's really not that big of a shock. I'd really be more concerned over the spring, summer as the vaccine comes widely available and we start to see inflation on the rise.
Okay, all right, good deal. Anybody have any questions for Joe? Okay, Sam, did you want to add anything on your end?
I think Joe pretty well covered it.
Okay, all right, good deal. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to get into the 2021 contracts. Of course, as you know, there's a lot of information, so there is no way possible that I can cover all of the changes in just about 30 minutes. It's impossible. So, but what I am going to do is go over as much as I can, which more than likely is probably going to be specifically starting with uh, the exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement. So, as I stated before, GAR has changed a lot of language in the contracts, and they also have changed from listing brokerage and selling brokerage to buyer's brokerage and seller's brokerage. So that terminology has changed. Now it has not changed for landlord and tenant. So none of that has changed, but they did change it for seller and buyer. So it's now seller's agent and buyer's agent. So just hope that we get that clarified. So buyer's brokerage, seller's brokerage. Let's start with the exclusive, and they changed the name of it. Let me see if I could get it up on my screen here. Can you guys see this? All right, so the listing agreement is now known as the exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement. So they changed the name to the exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement. Okay, so that's the new title of it. These contracts will be effective January 1. So you will have access to them on January 1. So the change here as well, exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement. They did make that change there. Pretty much A, B, number one, there pretty much hadn't been any changes in this part here. All of that is pretty much still the same. No major changes there. Now they did change number 2 here. So here they have list price and listing period. Okay, so they made a change here. On the old contract, it just pretty much said when it was going to start and when it was going to end. So now they have made a change here where it says the price at which the property shall be listed for sale is, which is the same, which is the list price. The term of this agreement shall begin on the date of, which is the starting date, and made available to the public on the date of. That's the marketing commencement date. Now that is different, and shall continue through the date of, and that's the ending date. Okay. Why did they put this here? Okay, they put this here to kind of protect us as the listing agent, because as you all know, there are a lot of times where we go over to a client's house and there's a lot of work to be done before we even list the property for sale. So we may go over and we may say, okay, well, this, and this needs to be done. We need to change this around. Some repairs need to be done. You're giving advice on staging the property. So you as the listing agent, you're already working. And you're working without an agreement. So technically that's not your client, that's still a customer. So as a listing agent, you're already going to work, you're already giving them advice on what to do, but they have no obligation to use you as the listing agent. Well, in this contract, this is a way where you could actually enter into an agreement, and then you could still enter into the agreement, the list price and the start date, but this date here where it says that you're going to make it available to the public, that's the date that it's going to actually hit the MLS. Now, a question was, is this because of coming soon? And technically they're kind of not the same, but because when you do a coming soon, and let me just clarify this right quick. Coming soon is, I think we got it confused with saying that it's illegal to do coming soon. That's not the case. You can do coming soon in Georgia. However, that's based upon what your local MLS wants to do. And our local MLS here in Columbus says we are not allowed to do coming soon listings. Now in Atlanta, you do see coming soon. There's no issue or anything like that in Atlanta. So other places in Georgia can do coming soon listings, and you do have the right to do that. This right here, because when you do a coming soon, you actually put it on the MLS. This here is saying that we're going to enter into an agreement. However, we're not going to put the house on the market to the public until this date. So you may have a listing agreement signed January 1, but it doesn't hit the MLS until January 15th. So now you're protecting your commission, so to speak, because even though you're entering into an agreement now, you're going to wait until you put it on the market. It's going to be marketed on that commencement date.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
How does this deny or allow you to be an exclusive showing during this period of start time until market time?
I'm sorry, say that again, Jim.
I mean, to me, I can see if I've got a date in there of 1 January where we took the listing and 1 February to put it on the MLS, the period 1 January to 1 February, I can show the property exclusively.
Actually, you can't. You're saying you can sell the property?
I'm seeing that nothing says I can't so far.
Well, technically, you don't have the seller's permission to market it, so you can't. This is the date that the seller is agreeing to put it out on the MLS. So
I bet we see a lot of that, come up.
Yeah. So this is the date that you have the seller's actual permission to actually market it. So that's the start date. And that's going to be important here in Columbus because and I'll go over it later
But if I walk in with a full price offer on day 2 on the 2nd of January with my reference, just happened to cause all of a sudden and you think the seller's going to turn it down? Hell no.
Right. But then you're going to go into another issue of someone saying, well, Jim is just not putting homes on the MLS. He's marketing them directly to his investors. And
how are they going to know? They don't get a copy of this.
Well, that, if you're right. I mean, to each its own. It's just, you don't want to put your
code of ethics, that's what it's going to come down to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, technically, the marketing date is the date that you put it on the MLS and all of that information. So just be clear that that's technically your official start date on the MLS, which is the marketing commencement date. Okay, so that is a change. So you could actually go ahead and market it and put it on the market on that day. All right. In the commission section, A and B is pretty much still the same as far as the commission. There's nothing that really has changed that much in that section right there, but they have. Oh, let me mention that number 4 was negotiation on the old contract. So they just moved it further down. So it hadn't gone away. They just moved it further down. So here on the commission, they added C. So in C, it says that there may be circumstances where the seller broker shall not pay the cooperating broker the commission referenced in section A. These circumstances and the commission shall be paid in such circumstances as follows. Okay, the reason that they added this section here is because you see you see more of Atlanta agents selling in the Columbus area, and they may come down and say, hey, I'm not a member of the MLS here. Can you open the door for my clients? Or they may say, hey, can you actually do a CMA for me? So we can determine if this is, a good price or whatever. So a lot of Atlanta agents are starting to come down here more and do business. But this section is saying, well, hey, is that fair to give that agent a full commission when you, as the listing agent or the seller's agent, is doing half of their work? So in this section, you can disclose that, if that happens, they may not be entitled to that full commission. And this section is just about transparency to the seller, because the seller says, okay, well, if I'm listing the property for 6% and, that's 3 to the seller agent and 3 to the buyer agent. But then when we get to closing, you have the seller agent getting 4% and then the buyer agent getting 2%. And it's just kind of keeping everything on the board, keeping the seller aware of what could happen, just so that there's no discrepancies on, why the commission changed for you as the seller's broker. So you want to make sure that you're being transparent. And then on section, are there any questions about that? Okay. On D, they just kind of put that here, which was already in the actual contract. They just moved it. Okay. And this is kind of like if we were doing like a lease agreement to sell the property. All right. So the protected period, there's nothing that changes here, but in the language of it, there is some changes. So just the way that it's written, there is not any change here, but I'll show you once we get into the language of it where it did change. All right, number 6, this is going to apply to us, and there has been a change. This top part for agency and brokerage agreement is still the same. The following are types of agency relationships not offered by the broker. Okay, so Shep had talked about this where he stated that our company does not offer a dual agency agreement. However, there's a way that we could kind of work around that. And I wish he was here to kind of clarify a little more with that, but our company does not participate in dual agency. Now, if we're going to check this box saying that our company does not participate in dual agency, this is a new section where it says the seller does or does not consent to broker acting in a dual agency capacity as that agency relationship is explained in section B below and in the CBO1 ABCs of agencies. Seller expressly consent to the broker acting in any other agency relationship affected by broker. So in this section here, again, we're trying to clarify transparency with our seller. Okay, there are a lot of situations where obviously there have been litigation and issues being brought up with agent and seller. So here we're being transparent and clarifying that if we're going to check as a company that we're not participating in dual agency, we just might as well get the seller to say that they don't consent in it. And it's just for clarification purposes. Okay. So that's been added as well. 7 has just been moved, but it's, we still had this in the contract here as far as seller has following special circumstances that will require third-party approval. So that's still the same, okay? You remember where I said that negotiation was number 4 on the 2020 contract is now been just changed to number 8, okay? So it's just moved from number 4 to number 8 here. And that's just basically, it clarified it. Let's look at, give me a second here. I believe it's under,
Hey,
under
can I go back?
corresponding.
Can you back up a minute?
Okay.
Contract to sell a property. Number 4, seller not on title. Is that something new?
Where are you talking about? Under commission?
No. Scroll down next page. Where you were just talking about. Under seller has the following paragraph 7. Okay.
Right here.
B 7B4.
Seller not on title.
Is that something new?
I think that they did just add that just for clarification purposes. The class that I was in did not address it at all. But I have to go back on the 2020 contract to see if that was actually added.
I mean, how can you sell it if the seller doesn't release the property? I mean, I don't understand why that's in there. I mean, even if they're deceased and you got probate, but it doesn't say that,
Yeah. I'll get clarification on that.
Okay, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
This is a good point. All right. So we're going down to B, where we're talking more in detail about these, the items that we had just gone over. So under the exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement, you'll go down here where it says seller acknowledges that seller may have to pay a previous broker a real estate commission if seller is subject to a current seller brokerage engagement agreement or has terminated a previous seller broker engagement agreement without consent to the previous broker. That section right here. Okay, I'm gonna go a little more in detail about that later, but I'll just address it right here. What this is actually saying is if a seller unilaterally terminates a listing agreement with you and they go on to hire another broker, that does not mean that that first listing or that first seller brokerage may not be entitled to a commission or may not be entitled to more days. Now, I want to clarify that there's a difference between a unilateral termination and a mutual termination. It's 2 separate things. Unilateral meaning one, means that it's one-sided, meaning that the seller terminated an agreement with you as the seller's broker. You may still be either entitled to a commission. okay? Because you technically did not terminate that agreement, the seller terminated it. And I'm gonna show you a little further on where you still may be entitled to a commission if someone that you showed the property to actually purchased it, okay? So that just says that that's telling the seller that they may still be entitled to pay a commission or something to the company that they may have terminated earlier. Okay, we're going to go down to number 2, the list price and listing period. This section here says the failure of the property to be shown or sell at the list price may be an indication that the list price of the property is too high. They put that in there just for us guys. So again, that's a way of, I mean, it should be self-explanatory, but how many times have we actually listed a property and we knew that it was too high and the listing was taken regardless? That's kind of like one of those CYA type things. So it's just, I mean, they just put it in there to spell it out that the failure of the property to be shown or sell at the list price may be an indication that the list price of the property is too high. So that's just kind of covering us on that section too. All right, still moving along. We're going to the extension. This is the section that I was talking about just a little bit earlier. And right here where it says, right here, broker providing written notice of the same to seller within 5 days of the contract to sell not being consummated, but in no event later than prior to the expiration of the agreement. Hereafter notification period, if such written notice is not given before the end of the notification period, then the extension period for that transaction shall be deemed to have been waived by the broker. So this section is saying that if the seller unilaterally terminates the agreement, by obligation, we still have the days left on that contract to gain a commission from someone that we already showed this property to. So, but you have to, even though you're entitled to it, you want to give written notice. If you don't, then they're just going to assume, oh, it was a mutual termination. No, it's if you give them written notice saying that, hey, you're still want to be entitled to your commission, you still have those days left over. So for example, if they unilaterally terminate an agreement and you still had 60 days left along with your extension, then you could add those days. So example, if Jim says, okay, we took the home off the market for 15 days and they terminate the agreement, then you still have 15 days left on the extension of this contract. Okay, does that make sense? Is any questions in reference to that? But you have to give them written notice stating that you want to do that.
I understand what you're saying here, but this looks like another clause. It still comes down to who's the procuring clause of contract of the sale. I mean,
Right.
like we've been debating for years. I mean, who actually made the sale? Doesn't matter. If I've got listed or extended period right now and I showed it, I may not have followed up with these people or anything else, and you did. So you could be the actual procuring cause, and I'm not. So it's a debatable subject again.
Yeah, and it is, and the thing of it is, Jim, is they want to try to protect the agent as much as they can to give them the opportunity to get their commission because they worked for it. So, and this is just saying that, hey, we want you to be clear that this is not a mutual agreement, that it's a unilateral termination. So I am still entitled, and I'm giving you written notice to know that I'm still entitled to a commission if this situation comes up. Okay. All right, let's go down to, I got about 7 minutes. Marketing. The marketing piece right here, this section here, marketing, it says seller acknowledges that buyers and other brokers may take photographs, videos, and other technology to capture images of the property to assist in marketing the property and helping buyers remember different properties. Seller agrees to remove any personal property prior to listing the property of which seller does not want images to be captured. So that section is just saying that, hey, you know, when people come into your house, we want you to know that they may take pictures or a video to kind of capture the house or remember it. And you are acknowledging that this may occur, that this may happen. So we're just, again, making it very clear that this may happen. Did you have a question, Jim?
No, I was just thumbs up because
Okay.
I thoroughly agree with that, because you can't sometimes you can't control the customer. You look around, all of a sudden they got a cell phone out, taking pictures, and you've been told no pictures, please.
Right. Absolutely. So now this just clarifies that, hey, there's a situation where you may have people coming in and snapping pictures of your property and or video. So if it's something that you don't want captured, you may want to, remove it, take it down, or whatever. Otherwise, you're agreeing.
A different side of things too. I've got a referral out for a high-end piece of property in town, and we've got a seller that monitors through their home devices anything that the buyer comments about when they walk in the house. Where are they going to come up with it? Put this into disclosure, to make this require seller disclosure in the listing, because that's a violation of Privacy Act to me.
Yeah, and we dealt with this on the local board, on the board of directors, and it is included on the paperwork for the information that we put into the MLS. Let me just kind of briefly go over that. What happened here in Columbus was there was a situation where buyers were in a property and they were just kind of talking about it, kind of said some negative stuff about the property. Seller overheard it, got upset, and basically kicked them out over the intercom system or whatever. Buyers got extremely upset, felt like it was a violation of their privacy to do that because, technology, you have Ring doorbells and all of this other security stuff. So we brought it to our legal team here, and it was stated that the home still belongs to the seller, so they have a right to do anything they want to. What we did was we included it on the information when you list the property. However, the seller still does not have an obligation to state, they don't have an obligation to tell you or not, even though it's on there. You can't make them put it on there. So if you are the buyer's broker or the buyer's agent, you just need to advise your clients that, hey, we don't want to discuss anything in this property. We don't know if they have listening devices or anything like that. So we want to make sure that we discuss it either on the way to the next property or if we're away from the house. So just make them aware of it so they're cautious about what they're saying, because sometimes they may even be discussion, negotiation stuff, what they want to offer on the house. So just be mindful of those things. All right, here under multiple listing service, right here, it starts off and it says broker agrees to file this agreement with the above referenced MLS within 1 business day of the marketing commencement date. That was the date that we were talking about, but our local MLS also says that if you're going to list a property, You have to put the lockbox and all of that on the door within 24 hours. So we are in compliance with that with our local MLS. The reason that they put it in the GAR contract is just to be clear. You always want to abide by your local MLS, but they put it in this contract as law for GAR, but it just happens to be that our local MLS follows it. So our local MLS here in Columbus is in compliance with that section there. Okay, any questions about that? All right, moving right along, we're going to go to the protected period here. We kind of talked about it a little bit. Right here, it says, protected period shall be the number of days remaining on what would have been the original listing as of the date the seller terminates the agreement, plus the number of days set forth in the protected period, section A, 5 of this agreement. There shall be no protected period if the broker and seller mutually terminate the agreement. Okay, on that section, that's where I was talking about, Jim, where you know, you have an obligation if the seller says, hey, take my property off. Well, by law, you have to go get your sign. You have to, you know, take it off of the MLS. You have to go get the lockbox. But this is saying, it's not a mutual. I'm not mutually agreeing that we're taking this off. So technically, I still have not only the days in the protected period, but also the days that I had remaining on the lease where I could be entitled to a commission. So that's the section that they wanted to clarify there in reference to the protected period. Is saying this is not a mutual agreement. This is still a unilateral. So I'm still entitled to those days. They added this section here as well, notwithstanding the above, if this agreement expires and is not unilaterally terminated by the seller, an exception to the above commission obligation shall apply, and no commission or leasing commission as applicable shall be due. So that section is saying if you mutually agree to do it, you've waived your right to a commission if someone else that you showed it to actually saw it. Was someone saying anything? Okay. All right. Moving on to dual agency, and I'm kind of speeded up a little bit here. This section, dual agency, applicable only if broker agency policy is to practice dual agency. Seller has with the broker. So that's the section where they added, where they're just putting it in here stating that, if we're not practicing dual agency, the seller is aware of that and the seller consents to it. All right. We're going to go down to section G right here. They added that. It says that seller shall have no authority to bind seller to any contracts to sell or give notices on behalf of the seller other than to forward if requested by the seller. So basically, this is saying we can't bind the contract for a seller. Okay, the seller has to do it on their own. Again, trying to alleviate issues where sellers saying, oh, the agent bound the contract and I didn't agree to the terms. So now the seller has to bind their own contract. We cannot bind the contract for them. Okay. A lot of this other miscellaneous stuff is still actually the same. We're going to go down to third-party vendors, which is third-party vendors. In this section, guys, it just, and you could read it yourself. All it's basically saying is, if you need work done on the property, we can recommend some people to do, some contractors to do the work, but you as the seller are agreeing to the terms, you're agreeing to let this contractor work. We're just saying, these are some options that we know, these are some contractors you can use, but at the end of the day, you can't fault me for these people if they come in and mess something up or do something that you're not pleased with. This says that you are, agreeing to use them. You just took the recommendation of the agent, but you can't hold the agent liable. Does that make sense? All right. Under 8, this section here states that terminates this agreement to the end of the agreement without prior written agreement. Broker removing listing from the multiple, we talked about that. That's just saying, if you remove your sign or anything like that, that doesn't mean that you're mutually agreeing to terminate. That just means that you're doing by law what you're supposed to do as far as removing the information from the MLS, that you have to do it once the seller wants to terminate that agreement. So that says in no way are you mutually agreeing to it. All right, so we're at our time. That's pretty much the changes for the seller's contract. Any questions for me in reference to the exclusive seller brokerage agreement? And Jim, I am going to get an answer for you in reference to that one thing that you pointed out. Other than that, are there any other questions? All right, so that's the exclusive seller brokerage agreement and the changes that were made. We are going to go over the buyer's brokerage agreement. There has been some significant changes in the seller's property disclosure. There are new actual amendments and documents that have been added. So we're going to go over those at a later date. Any questions for me at this time?
I will make one comment, Anthony.
Okay.
If you come 2021, 1 January, you can go onto the GAR website and print all these forms or print all of the revisions and stuff. And during that time, it has highlights for what was changed in red on the forms. So you can personally do this and update yourself as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for that information, Jim. As always, you are a resource for this company, and we appreciate you always going the extra mile to keep the company as a whole informed about different stuff. So I appreciate you. Any listings that anybody wants to discuss before we close out? Anybody have any new listings? Okay. All right. Well, if nobody has any new listings, it's 11:47. We try to keep this to 11:45. I see Alia on. Did you want to mention anything, Alia, in reference to 210? Okay. All right, guys. Well,
thank you, Anthony. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you
Appreciate
for
the time.
tuning in. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.